So I want to, two questions, one question, but kind of two parts. In your experience, who owns product market fit? Who owns the customer within the organization? And then in a strong ops role, who should own, or who owns it in a strong ops organization?
That's a good, hard question. I think who owns product market fit really should be, there's almost your V1 product. What most companies struggle with is moving from single product to multi-product. So I think the way you find product market fit for the first product is different than multi-product. So I'll try to talk about them a little bit separately. But let's think about your first product. I've seen amazing founders that are so hardworking and incredible, and they have product market fit for that very first product. Their TAM is just very small. But I generally think that finding product market fit is the job of the founders. I think before you go on board and bring a bunch of people in, you have to have good clarity about that. If you have done that well, the role of RevOps should be, or ops generally should be, to understand what your current product's value is. And I think what goes through my brain often as an operator is basically there are two modes we're living in as a company. There is this first mode of our product and our market fit is there and our product works. How do I scale our teams excellently to capture this? And that's a mode in which you're pushing into like what I would call operational excellence. How do we get more emails? How do we get more efficient? How do we get more dials? How do we have better conversions? How do we have faster speed to lead? How do we take better care of the customer? How do we onboard the customer better? But it's all about doing what you're doing today faster, better, and at more scale. At some point, most businesses asymptote, or that growth begins to slow. And that can slow cripplingly difficult at 5 million is what I feel like the worst for founders. You have enough to get to a viable business, but not enough to get that next sort of success curve. Some stall at 100, some stall at 500. It just is a question of like, at some point that growth model begins to stop. When you see that sign of slowing growth, I think that the P0 edict for roles like BizOps and RevOps in particular is to start finding your next horizons in the business. So McKinsey's got their famous 3 horizon model, for example, on this, but really the mode and the mentality and the focus of your most senior leaders for BizOps and RevOps has to shift from operational excellence. That doesn't mean you don't do it, but you shift from operational excellence into a more like sort of systemic problem that has to be solved, which is what's Act 2. And I think in that model, that is not the founders that are responsible for finding necessarily that second product market fit. That is often the genesis of your voice of customer, what your sales and marketing teams are telling you, the research your PMs and PMMs are doing. At this point, ideally, you're at several hundred million of revenue. When you're stalling, this is more fishing for those like adjacent opportunities, the next markets that you believe in, and expanding horizontally. So HubSpot is a great example of this. They famously went from like really just perfecting kind of, CRM and then jumping into the marketing universe really hard. You can go different ways. Salesforce also, right, started as really CRM. Their next major successful product was really, I think it was probably Marketing Cloud was theoretically next with Pardot, but I think the next really huge win for them was really Service Cloud. And that was expanding that footprint from a sales tech stack into a support tech stack. That I think came, if you talk with the folks there, from just listening to customers, hearing what they were saying and sort of finding that next horizon. I don't know if that was Mark Benioff. I'm not close enough to him to have ever known if that was him. But I think that second wave is more coming from like the collective intelligence of your customer facing teams and your brilliant like product managers and your product marketing managers.
100%. I think the one piece of like, if somebody's listening, the one thing I would advise you to kind of calibrate on, Apollo, Salesforce, HubSpot, targeting huge markets, right? They ran into these problems at much, much larger revenue numbers than some others. I've got a few friends that have companies, and one of them stalled out at 100 million on their first like product market fit. The other one stalled out around 40, 50, and then another stalled out around 20. And like in some cases, like the way they handled each of those was quite a bit differently. Some have argued that there's a kind of a compression coming to, or they're seeing a compression in what you can, in the revenue that you can get out of your like first product market fit. I get another friend who's like probably around 4 or 5, and they're, I wouldn't say fully stalled out like the other ones were, but I think I want to highlight some examples of like it's not necessarily your first product market fit is going to get you to a few hundred million or $1 billion in growth. It could come at a smaller number if you are a smaller company, or if you're targeting a smaller niche and you're not going after, say, something as broad as CRM.